I'm excited about this. Guys, I have found the holy grail of Fox body intake. As you could probably see in the thumbnail, I'm super excited about this. I have been watching this thing on eBay for, well, now about probably 15 days. I finally won it, finally got it. The Hartman intake. Why do I say the holy grail of intakes, right? There's obviously better intakes than this. This was one of the first BreadBox intakes released. If I'm not mistaken, these things came out in, I think, 93, somewhere around there. This came out right around the same time as the Downs intake. So I'll put a picture of the Downs up there for you guys so that you can see. But that was a really cool intake. It was solid metal. This is a polymer intake, and it was pretty much one of the first of its kind. So nowadays, if you see an intake like this, most of what you're going to see is the comp cams style. So this is the deal. Hartman Enterprises made this intake first, and then from my understanding, they were bought out by comp cams. So they made these essentially for comp cams for the longest times, and now the comp cams aren't even available. Let me ask you guys something. Do you remember these, the comp cam version, being offered in different colors? I can remember, and I may be completely wrong here, that you could get them in like yellow, red, blue, and black. Am I wrong here, or is this like a Mandela effect? So the cool feature with this intake is it bolts up directly to a factory lower. So that was absolutely a bottleneck. There's no doubt about that. And these intakes didn't make a shit ton of power. But what they did do is move your power band up, okay? So you didn't hardly have any low end torque with one of these intakes, but what it did was it shifted your power range up higher into the RPM. So if you had a set of heads, cam, something like that, then it would move it up and make it match a little bit better. They did make a little more horsepower, and there's actually an article where they did a shootout of, I think, 3 or 4 different intakes, and I'll put that up on the screen for you now and try my best to show you. It's really hard to read, but the Hartman, I think, came in like 2nd place or something like that. Did really good. But the Downs intake made it just a touch more, like a couple more horsepower. Guys, I'm just super excited about this. If you've never seen one of these, this is a piece of history. And look at this. This thing is in freaking tip-top perfect shape. Now, a lot of people think that these intakes are not made for boost. That's actually where you're wrong. These intakes were made for boost. Believe it or not, these plastic polymer intakes with this little bitty ring right here to seal everything up was made for boost. Now, this intake probably wouldn't be good for 25 pounds of boost or something like that. You really typically don't want to put an intake like this on an NA car. I mean, people did it years ago and they ran good, but it will pull some of your low end torque away. Now, back in the day, when we used to street race a lot with these cars, this would have been something that we would look for. And the reason is because it would have killed a lot of the low end torque and would allow you to get out of the hole a little bit better without blowing the tires off the car, and then the power kind of come in later, because we didn't have the tire technology that we have today. Now, we did have megabytes and stuff like that, so these cars did work some, but we just didn't have the really good tires that we have today. So like I said, back then we were looking for ways to kill low end torque in the street and then have it come back in later on, have the horsepower take over a little later on. So that's why stuff like this was kind of cool for the NA guys. But typically you wouldn't have wanted to use this like that. You'd use this for like a supercharged car. So anyway, let's look this thing over, and I got a couple tips and tricks that I want to show you. There's a couple things that I want to show you about this intake. Now, as you can see, it has a very small area that is going to seal up here. That's not a problem. I mean, that's the way these things were made, and they sealed up fine, but you have to know ahead of time that you're going to have to use some RTV on this. Now, having a polymer intake, you have to be really careful because you don't want to dig into it, right? And a razor blade can gouge this up, and we do not want to gouge up or maul up this sealing area right here. So what I'm going to do is show you guys something that I've been using on aluminum for years, and it works just as well on this. So these nylon brushes right here work awesome, and I'll go ahead and show you exactly what I'm saying here. All right, so as you can see with the nylon brush, we're not really hurting anything at all. And then you can just kind of come in with a pick or something like that and clean the edges of this. Now, This is not something that you're going to be taking on and off all the time, so it's really okay. Once you seal it up, you should be fine. Something else I want to show you guys that's really cool is this thing came with the original bolts. Look at that. I think that's awesome. Every one of the bolts came with it, even the washers here. Now guys, this is a piece of history, so I want to try to save every bit of this just because, I don't know, it's just cool, right? So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here. These things are rusty and they look like crap. If we drop that on there, look, that just makes the intake look bad. So I'm going to show you guys a quick tip on how to fix bolts like this and basically re-blue them. So let's go over here to the grinder and I'll show you guys. So this is super simple. All we're going to do is take a wire wheel, clean the rust off, then we'll move on to the next step. Then we're going to heat this thing up until it's pretty much red hot. I'm going to take it and drop it down in oil, basically quenching this, but this is called hot bluing. Now there's a certain temperature that you should get this to. We're probably not getting this to the correct temperature, but the biggest thing here is to get this hot, open up the pores, and then drench it in oil. So we'll look at this in just a second. All right, so over here are some of the ones that I've already done. This is the one that I just did right here. So let's kind of dry this off. Now this is not the best rust preventative or anything like that, but check it out. Now we have a bolt that pretty much looks exactly like it did from the factory. Nice black bolt versus something like this. All right, now I've already done these. As you can see, those look good and they're protected. You know, these are going to last you a while. That might be something that you guys want to do if you're trying to preserve stock bolts and you want to save them so they don't look like that. Trust me, some of them look worse. So I just wanted to give you guys some quick tips and tricks on how to preserve things like that and restore these. I've been watching guys do this forever. I watch my mechanics and he's always doing it. So I'm like, you know what, let's try it. You know what, it works fine. You can also cold blue, which is the same stuff that you would use on like a rifle or shotgun or something like that. Works pretty much the same, but they really need to be polished out before you use that. But anyway, guys, this is it. So what do you think of the Hartman freaking BreadBox? This is so cool, guys. This is a piece of Fox body history. This is one of the first intakes that was available aftermarket for the Fox body, and I think it's going to look awesome on the Retro Fox. So this will go on the car along with the supercharger, and hopefully it seals up. And if not, we're going to make it seal up. But shouldn't have any issues here with any of this. So I'm going to get this thing cleaned up. I want to show you guys how I go about like kind of cleaning this. We got lucky on this because this is a masterpiece right here. But I'm gonna go ahead, finish cleaning this thing up, guys, and stay tuned because this is going on the Retro Fox and it's gonna look awesome. It's gonna be so cool. They're not the best intake, guys. They're not gonna make the most horsepower. It's bottlenecked with a stock lower intake. You can port the intake and they do respond very well to that. And also the comp cams version was available with a GT40 lower design. I don't think the Hartman was ever available other than with a stock intake design. But yeah, pretty cool nonetheless, and we have one. Oh, so I will tell you guys about the listing. Man, I put in an absurd amount of money to lock this thing in. I knew I was gonna win this thing. I was like, I don't care what I gotta pay for it. This is a piece of history to me. And believe it or not, I actually won this thing for $130. If you guys ever run across one of these, hey, pick it up, man. It's cool. You're not going to get, you know, huge horsepower gains out of it, but they're cool nonetheless. If nothing else, you can put this thing on the shelf just for looks. Look, I'm going to go ahead, wrap this video up, and as always, thanks for watching.